Breaking Free podcast. I'm Nathan Francis. This is Sam Neilson. I found Sam through a mutual friend, Mitch Durden. He's been on my show before. Sam, you're 18. You have a very impressive story. You're a very impressive young man. I've hung out with you. Well, I haven't hung out in person yet. We've hung out online. I spoke to you yesterday. Did a little breathwork session before. Welcome to the show. How you going, mate?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I love being
No.
on here and sharing my mission and my journey and provide whatever value I can to young men.
There's a lot of young men around, mate, that are in that lifestyle that a lot of my listeners and viewers will know my old lifestyle. Did you ever have, because you're only 18, was there any drinking, partying in your story, mate? Because you're only such a young buck. So actually, I think you're 19 now, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm
was there any of that
19.
in your life? Because you're only so young.
Yeah. Yeah, there definitely was like periods of drinking with my mates, going out bush doofs but that was like high school years when I was like grade 8 and 9.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So Sam, it's so refreshing to see so many, well, not so many, but there are a lot of you around. You just, as I said to you yesterday, you're just not out there enough. And when I came across you through Mitch and saw the things you're posting, the breath work and all these things, I was blown away, man. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think I told you that yesterday, but I was blown away with what you're doing, your mission, and what you're here for, and who you're here to serve. Because a lot of our young men need this stuff, and for you to jump on today and share what you're about to share, let's get into that now. So, Sam, what is your story? Who are you? And how did you get into all of this stuff, or did it all find you?
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate that. So yeah, wow. About me. So yeah, like you said, my name is Sam. I'm a 19-year-old. I do coaching and I facilitate for young men, ages for 18 to 25. So not just young men, but like coming out of school is such an important age, right? To actually sort of hone in on who you are because there's so much conditioning and there's so much that comes into it all. It can be quite hard to know who we are, and I get it. And that's pretty much what I do. I work with men to help them go from who are stuck and overwhelmed by stress. It's literally one of the biggest things that we go through and literally pretty much clueless on how to navigate. Because in school, it's like math isn't going to really help you, navigate how stress is going to overwhelm you and affect you in all these different avenues of your life. And that's what I help with, so we can get clearer, have more clarity and confidence, and be connected to ourselves on a deeper level so that we can show up and just feel like we can trust ourselves, because being stuck and overwhelmed and anxious and depressed it's painful, and it's where a lot of us are stuck, and that's where I was stuck. So a bit about my journey is I grew up from the beginning of my life in I grew up in a very like a domestic violence environment, and a lot of my pretty much most of my upbringing until I left home, until a couple of years before I left home, which was last year. But yeah, I moved through these really challenging environments at home and at school, because going through abuse and narcissistic, so emotional and mental abuse as well, it all just was being wired into who I am and how I deal with things, because that's how mum deals with things. Why don't I deal with things that way, right? And that's when I came to school being a really angry kid, and I actually was reflecting the other week, and I never passed a single class in school. My whole schooling, never. And because I don't think I remember myself concentrating once. Like, I was always had to be making some sort of trouble. And I felt quite meaningless, growing up. with so much going on at home and it reinforcing how I deal with things and who I am. I was at school causing havoc, getting suspended. I was always suspended. I got expelled from a school once because when I was in grade 3, I actually haven't shared this before online at all. But I feel like now that we're here, it's something that it's important. I actually went to school with a knife one day in grade 3,
Jesus.
and I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I didn't know. I didn't want to hurt anyone, but I just remember this like one kid always telling me like, just bring one to school, bring one to school. And he was going through very similar things at home. I never liked him. I never liked him at all. And I don't know why I listened to him, but I just brought it, and that actually got me expelled. So I walked into class with it in my hand because the teacher was like, give that to me now. And it was so funny. I remember putting it on the whiteboard like thing where you put the pens. So random. Anyway, and yeah, that was quite a defining moment as a young boy because, I'm like, shit, what's the right thing to do? Because everything seems so gnarly and overwhelming and scary. I don't know what was right or wrong. I didn't know how to navigate anything. So I got expelled. Yeah, I pretty much moved through a lot of my schooling with that fight flight response in my body, or just freezing and being bad kid. So anyway, as I moved through schooling and I got a lot of punishments and a lot of like consequences to my actions, I moved up through high school, and I actually ended up building a really good community of mates, just really good connections with friends. And like I was actually in a group of like Samoans and Kiwis, and like, that community feeling, like everyone's so connected, and it feels so good, right? And they welcomed me with like open arms. But I was the type of kid that I would hide my laugh. Like I would hide my laugh. I would put my head in my bag just when I needed to laugh, or I'd turn around because I felt it didn't feel safe to do so. But that was such like a heartwarming moment to reflect on, because school was already so challenging and home was so challenging. So to go to school to people who supported me unconditionally and were still called the cool kids and to be a part of that, right? It was kind of cool, right? And yeah, so that was great until I moved through school to around grade 9. And in grade 9, everything got so intense at home, and so much as I got more mature and more aware of everything, hurting myself, and I was like, whoa, this is intense. Like I've never felt like I could ever talk to anyone about it, and I never did. Like if I ever talked to my grandparents about it, and I love my grandparents like so much, they helped me so much with home. They knew what was going on. They were like, all right, come on, we'll look after you here. But I never felt safe to tell anyone what was going on. And all my mates at school, everyone started to split up because that ego just built bigger and bigger and bigger. And so they started to walk around the school, and I was like, shit, I'm like this little kid around these like I'm the same age, but I'm so little. And to walk around with all these other boys who were like bigger than me, it looks like I'm just following the crowd, right? I didn't want to do that. And then either did this other guy, I don't know if I should mention his name, but there's this other guy who's also in this group that we had, and he was also like, nah, not doing that. Like, we just didn't have this. We're just more introverted than them. And I believe actually it's because we're both facing challenges in our family lives, and we all face different challenges. But yeah, he had specific problems with his mother, and I had also the same thing, but he didn't have a mum, and I did. So everything got, and that's what I'll get to in just a second. So everything got so intense. At home, I was like, whoa, I feel like I got to just tell someone what's going on. I just got to tell somebody what's going on. And I finally built up the courage to tell him, because we would sit alone out on this bench, and he didn't really like acknowledge me. I think he just liked me being there. I didn't feel like he ever wanted me to be there. But I was like, all right, he's here. He listens to me sometimes, but I'm going to share with him what's going on at home. And when I did that, I was like, hey, I'm actually going through this at home. And I started to tear up. I was getting a bit anxious, freezing up. And then he was just like, gave me shit. He gave me so much shit. He was like, do you even know, like, you have a mom, you don't know what it's like. Like, do you even know what other people are going through? You know what I mean? And I was just like, damn, this is like so shit. This is so shit. In grade, oh, actually, yeah, in grade 10, actually, just to reframe that. So, I mean, it was in grade 10 at this time. And yeah, so that hurt so much. So I left him, and I had no friends at school. No friends, grade 10, every lunch break. Like, I was actually keen for each class because I had no one to be around at lunch. I would literally go out and hide somewhere at lunch and just be like, shit, I would literally call my sister every single lunch. Because I'm in a family of like 6 siblings, so I'm one of 6. And my biological sister, Cara, she supported me so much. Like, no one has supported me as much as her. And I would call her every lunch break. And I'd say, hey, this is how I feel, this is what's going on. And of course, it was coming from a very anxious place. All the thoughts going through my head that, like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. Like, what's the point of anything? You know, it is useless. Just contemplating everything. But yeah, and then eventually she got to the point where she's like, hey, mate, I got to work. And I can't keep, like, I don't know what else you want me to do. Like, I want to wave a magic wand, but it's not going to work. And I was like, shit. So it actually is just me. And so behind the scenes, other than school, my hobbies at this time was skateboarding. And I was skateboarding for around 2 years at this time. And I had a good community, good skateboarding community. Such good connections in there. They supported me a lot. By just being there for me. Not a lot of people knew what I was going through in there, but skateboarding was a good outlet. And someone in that community who had just the biggest heart passed away around that time as well. And he went missing out in the Moreton Bay waters. I'll mention his name. His name is Trent Riley, T-Bunner. So for my closer mates who are listening to this, they're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. But I never had the closest or strongest connection to him, but he was actually one of the first skate parts that I ever watched. Skate video I ever watched was him skating at the local that I lived at, and where he grew up. And I was just, like, so inspired by him. And basically, that was big. So I had that hit me so hard, along with this going on at home. And anyway, one day I went fishing down at my local boat ramp, and I met this guy named Tyson. And yeah, he was like, on the side of his kayak, he had T-Bunner, which is Trent Riley. And I was like, waiting for him till dark to get to the boat ramp. I needed to go home, but I was like, I need to know this guy because he knows Trent. And he came over and I was like, yo, you know him? And he was like, yeah, he's one of my best mates. I grew up with him. And I was like, oh my God, that's insane. And eventually, yeah, I ended up working with him, doing roofing. So that was my first job out of school. So I left school after grade 10. I was like, all right, I'm out of here. This shit sucks. I need some outlet. I want to make money. Why not? So I got into roofing. And that was shit as ever. Shit as ever. And I did that for a little while with them, actually. Like 6 months. And throughout that time, I was already smoking weed, drinking, because I was in the skateboarding community. That's what my mates were doing, right? So it's like, I was doing what my mates are doing. So I was sort of wasn't so much around skating so much and focusing more on that. I'd get out every few weekends, but yeah, I pretty much spent every night smoking, drinking beer out of mum's fridge, mum and my stepdad's fridge, and smoking weed literally till 1 o'clock in the morning.
Jeez.
And wow, that was intense. And of course, that was me attempting to heal
Mm.
because that's all I knew to show off my nervous system. And that's why I believe most people go to these things is in an attempt
Yep.
to heal. And that's what I was just doing every night. So yeah, pretty much from till either 11 p.m. or 1 p.m. And then the boys would show up in the truck for roofing at 4 o'clock in the morning, 4 to 4:30 in the morning, and they'd call me, and I'd wake up to my phone under my head ringing, and I'm like, oh shit, I gotta go to work. And I would literally jump out of my bed, get my boots on, run around, grab whatever food I could find in the fridge. Sometimes it was just shit because I didn't apple, you know. Just, I would run around, grab whatever I could, fill up a water bottle, get out there, go to work, and I'd just fuck up every work job, every work site. They were always like, Sammy, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I just felt so hopeless, you know. So I'm like, fuck, I'm just doing my best. And that all hit me pretty hard because they, they were real hard on me. Being in the trade industry, a lot of people are really hard on each other. You know, imposter syndrome. What is it called? Small poppy syndrome. And not even that, but also just genuine. Can I swear in here?
Yeah.
Yeah, just genuinely, yeah, absolute, just shit people, you know, and people who don't know how to take care of themselves, so they reflect that out to other people, right? Every day for 3 months. Now, do you want my turning point?
Absolutely.
You want the turning point? So after literally 3 months smoking, drinking, most nights, porn,
Yeah.
lusting, which is talking to women online.
Oh, I've been there.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure all of us men have, right?
Hmm.
And it's one of the biggest escapes. And just pretty much all these things just to escape, escape, escape. I didn't know I was doing that. And this one thing changed so much for me. Being when I was in primary school, I had this maybe it was like one or two different teachers that I looked up to so much. You know, you have those teachers in school where like that's your idol in school. You're like, that's the best. That guy's the best teacher. Well, I was fortunate enough to have two of those as my teachers in grade 4 and grade 6. So they both, when I got suspended or I got in trouble, they would always come up to me, come down to my level, and go, "I know that you're going through stuff, and I know that you're strong, and that you've not a lot of people get you." And as a young man, I'm like, I don't fucking know what any of this means. I don't know what you're telling me right now, but I feel good. So yeah, they would just come for me and they're just like, I'm with you. Like, you got this. You've got this. You're strong. And I was just like, well, just felt a bit shocked after every time it happened. And that rippled into me being able to move through a lot of the trauma and, you know, physical, mental, and emotional abuse that I moved through a lot of my life. That was a big catalyst for me. And yeah. So that, I believe, is a big, big part of, along with the people who supported me in my family. A big part of why that really, really hard time that I was moving through with working and drinking and smoking led me to this split decision of I can continue down this journey of self destruction, and or just actually, I didn't know what the other option was. That's the thing. I was like, I don't really know what the other side looks like. I don't even know what self development is. 16-year-old me, by the way, and I don't know what any of this shit means. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I know that there's something better than this. I know that there's some way I can look after myself. And my sister, already recommending to me over a whole month, just meditate. Try meditation, Sam. Try it. I swear, it's the only thing I can think of that's gonna help. Alright, I'll try this woo-woo stupid shit. Like, I didn't believe it. Like, there's no way this is gonna help me. Little did I know, a 5-minute meditation from YouTube every morning. I stopped drinking completely at the age of 16. Now, I want to make it clear, I wasn't drinking like erratically or anything, but it's the fact that that was where my nervous system, my body, and my thoughts, that's just where my entire sense of self went to, because it's where my parents did. Yeah. And with alcoholics in the family, you know? And that's big. Just from doing a 5-minute meditation every morning, I started waking up at 3:30 in the morning. I stopped drinking. I only smoked when people were like, hey, do you want some? You know? I didn't spend my hard-earned money on it. I didn't need to do any of that. And started running every day. Like, shit, let's start running. Start doing push-ups in the room every day. And then all this sense of like awareness came through. I'm like, whoa, what's going on? What's going on right now? Everything's kind of making sense. I feel better, you know? And then I started to feel like more of a role model for my siblings, for my little sister, my brother. And then I started like showing them, hey, you can take care of yourself, you know? And they didn't really have that, you know? And you can take care of yourself. And then my mum started to see it. And yeah, certain people in my family, they didn't like it. They didn't like it. You know, there's this lovely verse in a song that I like from Lucas Mack. I don't know if you've heard of Lucas Mack, but it goes, your strengths reflect their weaknesses. And not too sure how it goes, but I'm sure it will come up for me if it needs to. But just reflecting so much back to them of what they were lacking. And just my self-love and my dedication to show up every day. And I used that money I stopped eating what they were making me, because I actually realized it wasn't helping, it wasn't good for me. Everyone in the family is getting sick. What's going on there? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to eat what I want. So then all my money pretty much went to paying for bills and stuff that mum wanted me to pay, paying for my own food and groceries every day. So pretty much just like living on my own income. Until I turned 17 and I found a lovely little video on YouTube and it said, DMT. Breathe and you get DMT hit. I'm like, what? This sounds sick. I want to get a DMT hit. I want to get a DMT hit. What the hell? My mate's talking about acid and shit at this time. I'm like, I'll do it naturally. So I watched this video called Breathwork, DMT. I was like, okay, it's like 10 minutes. I'll do it. And that's where I found Breathwork. That's where I committed to breathwork every single day. And breathwork is intentionally breathing. Like, it's a daily practice where there's activating breaths where we can activate our nervous system, or we can downregulate because we're a bit hyperactivated. And yeah, I was doing breathwork every day, and I was like, I really like this, it's sick. And I noticed that I felt even higher sense of being. Like, whoa, I feel like smart now. I feel like I can trust myself on a way deeper level. And that's because what I was doing was I was cultivating that deeper sense of safety and trust in myself by stimulating and discharging energy in my nervous system. And that's like when your emotions are a bit out of whack, or you're just feeling really angry, really sad. It builds up that energy, and then like to a high point to where then you bring it down. And that was where I started to create a relationship with my body and stimulate and control my emotions and the energy in my body. And then I could actually pause in certain situations instead of reacting and respond. And whoa, when certain people in the household were yelling and screaming, and I was standing in the middle of everything, just going, huh, this is what's going on. They did not like that. Because I was aware. I was holding a mirror to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just like, whoa, like, I'm actually angry. You know? People see that. And I saw that too. When I was angry, I was like, oh, okay. I just got to slow down my breath. And then I started to slow down my breath. And then that's when I started to dive into the nervous system and the certain nerves in our body, like the vagus nerve, which is what I realized I was activating when I was slowing down my breath in stressful situations. It's like, whoa, like, this is cool. Anyway, something I also didn't mention, but when I started meditating, I wish I started journaling as well when I was 16. So I was journaling, and I also found shadow work. So that was really confronting too.
Oh, yeah.
At the age of 16, shadow work,
Yeah.
journaling, meditation, holy shit. And I was doing that pretty much. And this is where when I was talking to you on our call, the lone wolf period that I had. Now I'm talking about it, this is all a lone wolf period. But until pretty much, yeah, around breathwork time, that's when my shadow work was really kicking in. I was like, fuck, now there's emotions underneath these things. And then that's when I found breathwork journeys. I'm not going to get too far into all of this, but I'll go to the breathwork journeys and then sort of to where I am today. But I was literally doing breathwork journeys on the floor in my bedroom, which is an hour and a half long journey, which is unraveling the layers of your emotions, accessing altered states of consciousness, and processing emotions that were stuck and stagnant from certain times in my life. Like certain freeze responses that I still hold on to from childhood when I was, I don't know, being punished or something and I was like frozen, or when I had to fight for my life, you know. Being able to sit on the floor in my bedroom at the age of 17 years old and on my yoga mat, because I was doing yoga too, and processing all these deep emotions. It's like, whoa, this is intense. Like, it's a lot here. But because I was doing so much breath work and meditation, shadow work, I trusted myself to go to those depths. And I was self-facilitating these journeys. So yeah, I was doing that, moved through all that time. As I say, cultivating deeper sense of trust, understanding myself a lot better, the people around me a lot better. Starting to realize like, holy shit, I'm here for a much bigger purpose than this, than working a normal traditional job, which I did continue doing. Of course, I did my conservation certificate, did landscaping, worked with a legend in landscaping. It was pretty cool. So there's really good people you meet along the way, and it has shaped who I've become. And so eventually I hit the ceiling in my growth, doing all these lovely things to show up for myself. And I was like, I gotta leave home. I'm already spending enough money. I may as well leave home and get a job. So I moved from North Brisbane up to Noosa, and that was fucked. That was confronting. That was so confronting. Like, whoa, I'm actually an adult now. As soon as I turned 18, I'm actually an adult. I could look after myself. And that's where certain, like, mother wounds played out, because I moved into this share house with this lady. I haven't spoken about this actually. This lady who was like in her 40s, 50s or something. She had a son as well who was my age too. She's cool. Because I was doing like Muay Thai and stuff at this time. And he was like, yeah, I want to get into it. He had a boxing bag. We were doing that. It was sick. But I noticed I kept telling her about so many things. I was trying to make her proud of me and stuff. I'm like, wait a minute. This feels like shit. Something feels so gross and unspoken. Yeah, that's opened me up to even another level of myself. Yep. That's where there's a lot involved in that in this time. But this is something that actually is much deeper that I haven't really brought out. It was speaking about my journey. And I invested in coaches. So I was making enough money to actually invest in coach. Not actually thinking about the financial investment. Oh, this will be $2,500. All right, sick. Till I actually had to pay it, and then I was like, oh shit, now we actually got to work. Now we actually got bills to pay. So yeah, I was working a farm, regenerative farm, which was pretty cool. Which is at a place that I actually lined up for myself for working at, which it's pretty cool. And yeah, coaches, went to 3-day immersions, so like retreats and stuff with one of my first coaches, Scott Wallace, and still mentor and mate, more of a mate today, which is really, really cool. Lovely to have all these connections, and yeah, just went out relentlessly working on myself and moved through heaps of time in Noosa, doing the same thing, literally just enjoying the fuck out of life. I was like, damn, I can go to the beach, Noosa Beach, which people come here for freaking vacations and shit. I live here. So sick. So cool. So it was really fun. The only thing that sucked the most was riding a bike, like literally an hour up and down hill every morning and night to get to work. That was just insane. And to get anywhere, because I was in the hinterland. Yeah. But yeah, so eventually the lady was like, I think that unspoken energy I was just saying before got a bit loud, and she was like, you got to go. I also wanted to take up a lot of space as well. So she's like, you got to go. And I was like, all right. So I ended up moving down to Mount Coolum, stayed there for 2 weeks. The lady there was like, you got to go, because I took up too much space again, and I wasn't working at that time. And then I got my license and I got my car. And I was like, all right, we're on the road. I'm going to live in my car. And also at this time, I kicked off my journey as a coach, a facilitator, because I did my facilitator, practitioner training. I just grew like beyond the roof, like literally into the sky kind of personal growth. I just leveled up. My energy changed. Everything has just shifted insanely. And I'm like, whoa, she's getting real now. And I've done a shit ton of work for my age, like relentlessly. And yeah, like a lot of inner child work. Yeah, so I eventually moved down to the Gold Coast, and living in my car, I lived in my car in the Gold Coast for 1 month, and I got this very unique opportunity as soon as I moved down there to speak on a stage in front of 200 plus people, which had 6-7 plus multi-figure entrepreneurs. And Samantha J, she was like, hey, do you want to hop up and take everyone through breathwork? Like, this is going to be huge. And I was like, wow. Breathwork was really my thing at this time, and it still really is my thing. I was terrified. I hopped up there, I did my thing, I was I felt so confident in myself, and I did everything fucking so much better than I thought I ever would have. Like I hopped off, and people were coming up to me and going, "Bro, you dropped me in." Like I was in it. So thank you. I love what you're doing. Blah blah blah. And people just reflect to me so much how much growth I've done and how much strength and courage and confidence I have. And I see it all in myself, and I'm proud of myself for it all. But I went from there. I went from I went from feeling stuck, broken, anxious, and depressed, and scared, lost, to confident. I have a mission. Like I'm here to serve young men get from that to access these elevated states of emotions that I now get to feel. Because I've done work and processed a lot. It's allowed me to feel naturally elevated states of emotions because those emotions aren't pulling me down anymore. The stories aren't pulling me down anymore. And I've done and all that work I've done has allowed me to get to this point where I can trust myself. I've got infinite clarity. Like I'm creating so much every day. I've got a mission and a purpose here, and I'm ready to do it. Like really pursue it, and I'm pursuing it every single day, and I love it. Like I couldn't ask for more. So yeah, after that I went to a 4 days men's retreat, which is the gathering of men, and that was intense. That was intense, and it was powerful because I got split off to a group with like younger men who were 18, like 18 to 14, and holy shit! Every time we got in a little circle and we were chatting, I was always the one that broke the tension. I was always the one that broke the ice, and I was like, "Yo, let's get into the nitty gritty of my journey. Like not this journey I've shared, but like certain aspects of it that I've gone through that the facilitator that was with us was asking us, and I broke the ice, and they were just like, "Oh my gosh," seeing 14 to 18-year-olds, 17, 16, seeing my vulnerability as strength. Come on, seeing that as strength at that age, that's so powerful. And by the end of it, it showed me how intelligent us young men are. Because we are so full of wisdom. We have got a big purpose. There was a 14-year-old in there that was like, I wanna make so much money and provide for my family in the future. Like I don't want my family or my wife to work when I'm older. I'm like, bro, you're 14. Like, what are you doing? Like, all right, go for it. I'm like, I love that. I love that so much. When I was 14, I was, like I said before, stuck, lost, anxious, scared. I want more young men to feel that empowerment, that trust. Oh my God, come on. That was a big lesson for me, and everyone in there looked up to me, and that helped me. That showed me my level of leadership, and that was like, energetic shift, big time energetic shift. I was like, whoa, shit. So, yeah, stayed in some Airbnbs. Eventually, my car blew up, and this is my more recent transformation. But is there anything you want to ask or like bring into the space before I get into anything else? Because I've been yapping on for the last 40 minutes.
Mate, very powerful story. And I must say, credit to you for everything that you've gone through from where you were to where you are now. I'm just going to be another person to add to that list, mate. Very impressive. And that's the thing with you young bucks, right? You guys are so powerful on that soul energetic level that you guys can bust through anything and make shit happen very, very quickly. Because I've worked with a lot of youth and I'm seeing this more and more and more as I go. Like you can go through the depths of absolute horrible shit, but like that transformation, that freaking angel wings that just bust out, bang, you're off. It's like this 2 year thing or less than. Like I could tell you some stories about some of you young bucks. Like it is unbelievable. And you're just another one now. It's a testament to you to actually take the courage and the strength to push through all of that for something better. And you didn't even know what that was, but you knew that it was out there. And you must have just had that feeling, right? Bang,
Mm.
gone, you're off. Like, mate, well done. So many of you doing it. It's just great. And it just warms my heart to hear it because a lot of
Mm.
the young people are coming into this world and are going through so much shit like DV, like violence, dad's in jail, mum's in jail, dad's got 57 girlfriends, you've got step siblings, step siblings, all this stuff, all this stuff. The kids are like, what the fuck? But there's always that, like, it's just so powerful to see and hear someone that's been through all of this shit to be like, hey, there's another way out through this. Just come and join me, mate. Like, I see you doing all sorts of cool shit. Testament to you. That last 40 minutes, man, very, 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 very powerful. There are a few things I was going to ask you, and I said, and one of them here is, mate, there's so much passion in your voice. You clearly love what you do. It's just, but you clearly love you. It's like you've forgiven yourself for the past, right? And you love that version of you, but then you're loving, like, you just love it all. It's like you just embraced everything. Like you've just gone, yeah, it's unbelievable. That's one thing I'll also put out there. Another thing I'll also say too is, mate, how are you able to calm down your nervous system? Because you said you're in fight, flight, freeze. That's a big thing to recognize at 16 years old because the school system doesn't teach you any of this shit. And that's one of the things that I'm very passionate about too, is getting this back into schools or back into kids that they can learn about this stuff, emotional regulation on that deep level. But how were you able to calm down your nervous system at only 16 years of age? With all of that shit going on around you.
Mm. Just, yeah, that awareness.
Yeah.
And I think this one thing is probably one of the most catalyst, like one of the biggest catalysts for any young individual, and that is establishing trust in themselves. And that brings, I feel like a byproduct of that is awareness and action. So I established trust in myself by just showing up with a little practice each day, journaling how I felt, how I viewed certain situations, looking at the actual reality of it, and then, tuning into how all that felt. And then also like doing certain practices like breath work helped me with the awareness that I had see that slowing down my breath actually, because when I'm doing like activating my daily practices, I would activate my nervous system, so I go into a fight or flight. And now the reason why I actually do that is so that the more I switch on my fight or flight in a practice, the more that I'm expanding my window of tolerance to that, because I'm controllably going back down into my rest and restore mode. So the more that I practice that, when I was younger with the awareness that I had, I was like, oh shit, I can just breathe. Like when I'm in that fight or flight, that I recognize what that feels like, I can slow down my breath. Then I can go into a more
Love
responsive
it.
state. Yeah, that was
Love
cool.
it. Another question I had for you too, man. And that's awesome too, because that's good advice for any young person out there and any person in general to be able to slow down that nervous system and connect to that breath, but also connect to themselves. There's another
Yeah.
thing I was going to ask you too, because a lot of my listeners and viewers know that because you mentioned porn and lusting, like a lot of young boys are into this stuff heavily, especially now with the OnlyFans and all that other garbage that's out there now. You basically got Instagram that's free porn, and then it's just like luring those boys into the.
Mm.
I know for me, I was one of those young boys that was lured too. How were you able to overcome that porn and lusting, mate? Because that's a real big one, and it's an underlying issue that not many young men are speaking about. How were you able to overcome the porn thing?
So That's a really good question. And
Mm,
this is something I really don't speak into. And
yeah, that's
it
why
must
I asked
be,
you.
yeah. And there's something really good with that too that I would love to share. And it is how I was literally, for me, it was actually the awareness of why I did it in the first place.
Yeah,
So when I was like, this is like my last option every time shit goes wrong. I always go to this. I
right.
always go to this. I'm like, why? But I'm aware. You know, even while I was in like my journey of breath work, even up to a few months ago, I wasn't watching porn or anything, but just that, you know, lusting and shit like that. It was just the last resort. It's like coping mechanism. And I'm like, why? Why is this happening? You know?
Mm,
And when I was reflecting, I feel like this is going to be really insightful for a lot of young men. When I was in that really battling environment, I would go straight to porn because I was like, well, this is going to help me feel good. This is the way that I feel that sense of love and acceptance, I guess. I didn't know, I just thought it made me feel better. So every time shit was going really wrong at home, I didn't know how to deal with how I was feeling, and it would go straight to that, straight to the bathroom, you know. Um, and I was
I
like,
did the
oh my
same
god,
thing, bro.
yeah, oh my
Yeah.
god, because it's that. It's not because of the dopamine, you
No.
know. It's actually because that was a coping mechanism that served me once in my life. It was my go-to, and that was literally at the age of 12, 11, 10, doing
Did
it.
you find it was easy to quit? Like, did you find it was easy to just drop off the alcohol? It was just easy to just drop off the weed. It was easy to just drop this and drop that and drop that and drop this and drop that. But it's like that one thing that was still there was that porn. Because I
Mm-hmm.
was the same for a long
Mm.
fucking time. Yeah. Feel like you and I have had very similar porn journeys, bro.
Yeah, yeah, around all of that, absolutely.
Except you were just a bit younger when you quit.
Yeah, and I think the first step to growth and transformation is awareness.
Yeah,
I
100%.
love that. Something
But
I've
for
learned.
me, man, that young woman or whatever that woman was, right? It was like that young boy was like that was the attention that I was getting as that young boy was like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that young boy would have all of this shit go on, all these emotions, all this stuff. It's like someone else is giving me attention. Yes, it's through a screen, but I'm getting attention elsewhere. And it's like this safety net of I'm just going to go over here because it's safer with whatever that internet girlfriend is, whoever it is. It's safer over there because she's giving me what I need,
mm,
and I don't even know what it is that I need. But I'm getting that from the screen. I'm just going to go over here and bond with that. And for me, man, that took me 10 years to break.
yeah,
I was like, I don't know how old you were when you started. I was 8. And back, this is probably even before you were born, bro. That back then it was like magazines, and the internet just started up. So then it was like pop ups. Like you go on a website and there'd be a pop up of this chick with whatever, and I'll be like, oh fuck, I was gone. I was hooked for like nearly 20 years, bro.
mm,
But then you start that self awareness journey. For you, you know, you young bucks don't have the 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years of shit to break. You're like, I'm just going to fucking break it. You know, for me, it was a little bit harder. It was harder in a sense, a bit tough, a bit deeper because it was a bit longer of a thing because yeah, I can just resonate so much with it, man. Like
mm,
we just find that safety on that screen, and all the young boys out there there's so much shit going on. Like you can see how this industry's booming because it's just these young boys that are just lost, depleted, are feeling all these things, but they're getting that attention from a woman on a screen, and it's just easier to bond with that than going out there in the real world and just finding a woman and bonding with her.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Mm.
What do you make of that?
Hmm.
It's true, isn't it? Like that's just what Yeah, and it's incumbent upon people like us, men like us, man, that can just grab a few of them inch by inch, step by step, and be like, "Hey, there's another way out."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes,
And
absolutely.
how was the process for you in weaning off the porn? For me, man, it was tough. Because
Yeah. It.
I'd go 1 week, 2 weeks, and be like, "Oh, I'm feeling pretty good," but then that lusting would come. Like you'd get that little temptation. You go, "Oh, oh, oh," and then sort of, you know what I mean? Like, how were you
Mm-mm.
able to just like? I found it really hard to cold turkey porn. I cold turkey everything else, but found it hard to cold turkey porn. Were you the same?
Yeah, and it's. I think something I really wanted to mention in that is like, for me, it was the hardest because I noticed everything else was a behavior from other people. And this is
Yeah.
what I wanted to mention this real quick. I like to look at it from three guides. So our guide is our present self. That's one of our guides. That's where we learn from our own mistakes, our own present. So we're still learning from our past, whatever. Um, Learning from our present mistakes, lessons, like achievements, whatever. Just learning from the now. And there's the higher self, which is where we it's the guide that guides us, it heals us from our past, heals our past and guides us for our future. And then there's another guide. Oh yes, the external reality. Now this has been a big guide for me in my life. Now they've all been big guides in my life. They've all been massive, but our external reality has been huge because the biggest like motivator and the reason it was so easy for me to just like be like, nah, I'm not gonna smoke or drink because fuck that. Like I'm not gonna even eat that certain food. And it was because the people around me growing up were so unhealthy. You know, they you know, I don't mean this in a way to be like I still love them all, right? Of course. But that was my lesson. I was like, I don't want to be like that. I know that I can take care of myself and be healthy. So I'm going to learn from that. But the thing is, no one around me I didn't know anyone else who was also going to that as an outlet. I didn't know anyone else who was doing porn. It's a personal thing, you know? So then it's
Hmm.
something for me to work on and learn from myself. And because it's so deeply rooted, it's really challenging. But thing that has helped me the most and has been huge this last year, mainly the last 6 months, is self acceptance. And this is also a big thing I learned from the Gathering of Men when did one of the sexual man workshops, and it was that accepting that I'm a sexual man. Like I'm literally
Oh, here we go.
like this is human, and and from every time I did it from that point on, I was like, it's okay. It's okay
Yes.
because I'm sexual human being. We all are, and this is okay. It's okay, and I'm establishing that trust. I'm connecting with my inner child who didn't feel like it was safe. He started to make it as something that was wrong. Started to make like coming back to himself, like using porn and masturbating as something wrong, and accepting all of that in myself. And
Yeah. Fuck.
oh, yeah,
Because I had
it's
that exact same realization.
mm,
It's like accepting that part of you because oh, man, that was
just
deep.
trying to love you and protect you.
Literally. And you're telling that little child that too. And there was something else about like, isn't it interesting? Not interesting, but awesome and powerful how we remember things people tell us, whether that's negative or positive. And I love when you said here that you had two teachers when you're in grade 3 and grade 6 that said some things to you that you probably didn't know what they were. You said that you didn't know what they were, but you
Yeah,
circled back to that and you remembered it on a much deeper level and you were able to understand that advice as the older person of you. Now, I've had those exact same experiences too and that is why I really want, like in my coaching, to work with kids because for me, man, I didn't have very many people that said those things to me either. And I really just resonated a lot with that because whenever I talk to kids, I feel as though I'm talking to my younger self, telling
Yeah.
them what I needed to hear, but it's also what little Joey over there needs to hear too.
Mm.
Real powerful, man. And I just wanted to circle back and just be like, that's really cool that you remembered that
Yeah.
because, yeah, I just really awesome, man. And another part of your journey too is just all of it is just awesome and very inspiring. And you need to be out there, bro, which is why you're doing this. Next thing, if there was a young man, there are a few young men that watch this, even older men too, man, that would have probably another 20 to 30, 40 years on you with all this stuff. Just any man out there, let's just generalize to any man. What would be your advice to that young man or old man to just start that journey, man?
My advice would be hmm, it'd be more questioning. Like,
Ooh,
what's the cost of staying the same? And like, where do you want to be? And how's that going to benefit? Like, what's that going to create for you in your life? Because the more that we can get clearer on why we want to do something, the more like meaning and purpose we can lead with. My motivator, and as a young man, I was like, I don't want to be like my parents. I don't want to be like the self-destructive people in my life growing up. That was my motivator, you know? And it's, we all talk about, oh, you need to have a why, you need to have a why, you know? But it's like, what's a deeper why? Like, there's a deeper sense of why. And my deeper sense of why was, I don't want to be like that, but I do know that I want to be the best version of me, and kind of that's what it looks like. So I would recommend getting on the journey of self-development, transformation, and healing, because you deserve it. Like, speaking to the listener, you deserve to love yourself. You deserve to be aware of why things aren't going the way you want it to, and why things are playing out in a way that you're not aware of, which goes into the unconscious mind, right? And that's where a lot of unraveling happens with the self-development and healing and transformation work. That allows for you to feel empowered. So you can actually lead with courage and strength, and you're actually doing that by doing the work. It's not about doing the work and getting there, it's the fact that you're actually establishing that by just doing the work. So, everyone deserves to step out on that journey, meet all parts of themselves, and feel and accept themselves. So,
love it.
yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing all you've shared today, Sam. We are going to circle back and get you back on very soon, I feel, because there's a lot more to discuss, I reckon.
Oh my
What we
gosh.
can do, man, is we can pick a few of these topics out and just do a talk about whatever, especially the porn one.
Mm.
Because I feel like our journeys are very similar with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sam, thank you so much for jumping on, giving your time to my platform, my listeners, my viewers, my everything. It's just been a really awesome. Like you've even helped me today. Like there are some things that you said, I was like, oh, I can take a bit away from that as well. So I really hope anyone out there that's listening and watching, that's following me or Sam, reaches out to Sam. Because he's gonna change his world. This young man here, and I'm so glad I found him, and I call him a friend. Sam, thank you.
Thank you,
That
bro. I
was
really
awesome.
appreciate it.
This has been the Breaking Free podcast. I'm Nathan Francis, your host. I'll talk to you guys again soon. There's some awesome guests in the can coming out soon, so stay tuned. And I'll talk to you all soon. Cheers.